Hello everyone, welcome back to Art and Vile Gamers. Let's review Evolution, the World of the Sacred Devices for the Dreamcast. Evolution was developed in 1999 by the developer Stick. The genre that would best describe the game would be a mixture of a roguelike RPG combined with a dungeon crawler. The basic premise of the story consists of mainly leading your party through dungeons, fighting monsters, and collecting treasure. The main story revolves around our main protagonist named Meg Launcher, who is a son of the Launcher family who specializes in explorations of ruins across the land. What makes these explorers unique is that the majority of them utilize an item called a Cyraframe, which helps them in their exploration against monsters. It can also be used as a utility tool. In Meg Launcher's case, his Cyraframe item is a giant hand. The main characters you will interact and deal with the most in Evolution includes Meg Launcher, Linear Cannon, Grenade, Pepperbox, Chain Gun, and that guy named Prince Eugene. The main plot of the story consists of Meg just coming back from another failed expedition where he did not get the treasure, and as a result, he did not get paid. So overall, his debt in the family just went up. Most of the game, you'll be focusing on reducing the family debt that the Launcher family owes to the Society, who is the main organization where Meg receives his assignment to go on rune exploration. The way you manage to reduce your family debt and owings is simply by going on these expeditions to these ruins, collect the treasure, and come back, and you get a completion bonus for completing these ruins. But at the same time, you were to find any additional treasure to bring back to be appraised, you could auto-utilize that money for reducing your debt as well. The unique aspect of this game is that when you click start to play the game, it will immediately take you into the middle of a battle where Meg and his partner Linear Canyon in this case have to fight off two enemies. But don't worry, since this is the first battle in the game, it's very unlikely that you will lose. But overall, who knows? So if you didn't read the manual in advance, then you should quickly pull out the manual to read it, quickly know the controls. It won't give you any tutorials at all, it's just a start off a battle. After some cutscenes, it will then fly out to a high-flying overview of the town where Meg lives in, which is called Panan Town. It's honestly like a small town. There's only like 3 houses there, 1 trailer, a mansion, the society office, a bar, and a local convenience store combined with a blacksmith. Aside from that, it's a pretty small community. After you go through another cutscene where your family butler, Grenade, lectures Meg on his failure in order to complete the expedition, this allows you to explore around a bit and take a look around the town and explore Meg's home as well. You can interact with certain areas, and if you're lucky, you might even find some items that can help you on the adventure. But after all this, you then head over to the Society to get your next assignment, which lets you choose from one of 5 runes. These runes are the Descent runes, the Show runes, the Shades runes, the Heavens runes, and the Blind runes. Do note, based on once you select a dungeon to go into for exploration, it's automatically locked in and you cannot choose another dungeon until you complete this one. So it's like one of those gives you backseats. But at the same time, do note, after you clear your first dungeon, the military will come in and blockade another dungeon at random. So choose wisely, as you will end up having one dungeon that is locked temporarily until the military leaves. After selecting your dungeon, you can then decide who to accompany you on the adventure. In this game, you're allowed a party of 3 characters. The 2 main characters who will be defaulted and stuck in your party for a majority of the game will be Meg Launcher and Linear Cannon. You have the option of choosing from one of 3 other people to help accompany you on these expeditions. But for the time being, you only have 2 options so far. First one is the Grenade the Butler, who is basically the family butler for the Meg Launcher, and his specialty is he fights with a long gun, most of the time a rifle. You could also choose your rival, who's also an adventurer, which is named Chain Gun, who specializes with a sword Cyraframe with jet boosters. There's a third member whose name is Pepperbox, but you won't be able to meet her until after clearing the first rune. She's also an adventurer as well, who uses a bazooka Cyraframe. But it depends on your playstyle, because each of those characters have a different set of pros and cons. And honestly, it's like depends on how you like to play. Like for example, Grenad's abilities, most of its abilities are more towards a utility-based style, while Chain Gun's mostly more offensive abilities. But in addition to all this, there's another catch. Once you clear a dungeon, the society will give you a completion bonus for completing your task. Do note, depending on your party member, they might take a different cut. Grenade in this case would not take any of your money, so you get to keep all of his shares. Chain Gun and Pepperbox will both take a cut of the profits. Linear Cannon's weapon mainly is she uses as a frying pan to bash opponents, and majority of her abilities are more support-based abilities such as healing, debuffing your character, boosting abilities. But most of it doesn't do much offensive effects on the enemy, it's more for helping your team overall. One interesting system to keep in mind during this game is the formation system for your party during the adventure. Each character could stand in 3 different areas: the front, the middle, the back. If you stand at the front, you will have higher attack damage, but your defense is lower. The middle is the most neutral formation where it's balanced attack and defense, while being in the back formation will allow you to have higher defense but lower attack. But at the same time, during a battle, if you want to escape, all your party members have to move to the back first before you could initiate an escape. My personal formation I like to utilize is putting Mag Launcher in the middle while putting Linear Cannon and Grenade in the back, as I tend to use Grenade a lot more in my explorations of the runes than the other adventurers because it's mostly a personal preference, but at the same time, I feel like Grenade's abilities are more effective when utilized with Meg in conjunction, and more from a utility standpoint because you should always have some support and defensive abilities and cannot strictly focus on pure offensiveness. In addition to all this, so in the situation where we run into a monster group that's too strong, we can just simply have Meg move to the back formation, and then the entire party can retreat a bit more effectively instead of having to waste numerous turns moving all the party members to the back to escape. Next, I want to cover the inventory system in the game. In each character's holdout, there's 5 item slots, which consist of the weapon slot, the head slot, the body slot, the foot slot, and the accessory slot. But do know this is just to increase stats. It won't show any cosmetic appearances to the character. In addition, during your adventure, you have a backpack that can hold up to 32 items on your body. If you encounter a 33rd item, well, basically, long story short, if your bag is full and you try to pick up another item, it wouldn't let you until you throw something out. If you need to store some items for later usage and you want to have to carry with you on the dungeon, you could go back to Meg Launcher's house and go into the storage bin to put items there. But do note, it can only hold 100 items, and the items of the same name do not stack. So for instance, you have 5 units of Nalin, it will be classified as 5 items of Nalin in the storage box, not Nalin with a quantity of 5. So you take up 5 spaces instead of 1. And so far during my gameplay, I haven't found any way to increase the inventory size for your backpack or your storage. An aspect that's unique in Evolution is that the battles aren't actually one of those random encounter situations, as in this case, when you're exploring through the runes and dungeons, you could see the monsters, and only if you touch them, a battle will be initiated. So this helps out if you have limited hit points and you run out of supplies, so that if you see a monster, you could run away. But even then, in addition to this, if you look on the mini-map that you get, you can see that the red symbolizes enemies. While on the discussion regarding the mini-map, there's a few different icons or colors to be aware of while traversing throughout the ruins and dungeons. Like I just mentioned, red symbolizes enemies. There's also the color green that appears on the mini-map only if you use the trap scanner ability, which reveals where all the hidden traps are in the game. These traps come in 2 forms. There are some traps which will boost your XP or heal you, and then there's some traps that would negatively affect you. You can't tell right off the bat until you touch it, but from experience, as you pay attention to the trap design, it gives you a hint to determining which trap is good or bad. They only appear as green on the minimap if you use the trap scanner ability. Otherwise, you don't see it. The other one colors you encounter is white. The color white comes in 2 forms. The small white represents just a chest for you to search to collect an item, while big white, it has an escape portal to allow you to leave the dungeon. Outside of this big white icon circle in order to leave the dungeon, The only other way to leave the dungeon is via completing the dungeon. Else, there is no other way out aside from obviously dying and having to be rescued by the society. Another interesting aspect of this game it has is that depending on how you touch the enemy while you're in the ruins will affect what type of battle situation will occur, as there's three different kinds. The first kind is if it's you and the enemy both run into each other head to head, you have a normal sequence with normal turns. If the enemy's back is towards you and you interact with them, it will then result in you getting a surprise advantage over them where you get to attack first. Just like in the same way, if your back is towards them and the enemy touches you, then they get an advantage where they get to attack first. You can tell based on the theme music that plays, depending on who touched who, which lets you know what type of battle is happening. During battles, you have a very simple looking interface, which is very clean at the same time, which shows on the bottom is your three characters with the yellow being their hit points before they get incapacitated, and the light blue, which is fighting point, which they utilize for using special abilities in the battle. On the right, it's a sequence order which shows who is going next in the battle, with the purple symbolizing the enemy. And on the top left is the options you have for that character, such as attacking using a special ability, an item, or moving locations, or using defense. During the battle, you do have 5 options on what you want to do, such as when you click the attack function, it lets you use your character will get to decide which enemy you want to hit. It's very straightforward. Defend, same rule, just boosts your character's defense, so when you get hit, it takes less damage. The other 3 are more of note includes moving allows you to decide where to move your character in the formation, whether to move forward, backward, or to the middle, depending on where you're standing. The special will allow you to open the drop down and let you choose your character's special ability to utilize in that attack, or the same attack can be used as a healing or booster effect. The item pretty much allows you to select one item from your inventory to use that turn. It could be a healing item, a throwing item, you name it. The next thing I want to discuss is in regards to what happens if your hit point runs out in the middle of a battle in the dungeon. Depending on where you are in the game in the dungeon will affect what happens next. So if you're during your exploration before you meet the boss and your party gets wiped out, in which case the society will send a rescue team to rescue you, which, well, it's great that you get another chance to survive, but there is a catch. The society will charge you a fee for having to come rescue, and in addition, the Rune/Dungeons security system would take away all items that are classified as appraisal item, which are treasures, so you won't make any money off of that. So you can say you don't get any money for any of the appraisal items because you lose all of them, and you get a bill on top of having to be rescued. So it's no fun at all. So try to avoid getting wiped out. But in the situation where you're deeper in the dungeon during a boss battle and you get wiped out, unfortunately, that is a game over. So if you didn't save your game, then it's game over. You have to start over from the beginning. But in the case where if only one member or 2 members get wiped out and you still have one member standing left, there's only 2 ways to revive them. Number 1, you find a way to exit the dungeon. Or 2, you utilize an item called a Red Viper, which will restore or revive a party member back to life. The only other exception to this rule is the third option is to use Linear's Revive ability, in which you could restore one member back to life at the cost of some fighting points. Do know though, Linear's ability can only be used during a battle, not after. Another thing I want to cover is that there are 2 types of points that are related to special abilities. The first one is fighting points, which is what shows on the character in the dungeon. As you unlock different abilities, you would utilize fighting points to activate those abilities. So think of it like using mana. Fighting points can be recovered by either items or through just simply attacking using basic attacks on the enemy. It will recover some fighting points, or leaving a dungeon. The other type of point is called the technical point, also short for TP. This type of point is utilized to unlock an ability for the first time. It can be accumulated through battle and through party members that you don't bring in the dungeon. They collect those points as well over time. But do note though, it caps out at 9,999. So it is recommended if you have other party members you aren't using in the dungeon room, then you go leave the dungeon when you can, see those members, spend their points, and then go back in. So at least you can get more value out of it. What is also cool is if you're in a battle and you decide to unlock an ability, the first time it's utilized, you will not be charged any fighting points. Another unique mechanic within this game is that as you complete dungeons and start progressing further in the game, the monsters levels and the boss levels in future dungeons go up. So it is recommended that you should farm and constantly grind a lot in your existing dungeon before moving forward. So for example, in the first dungeon, they might cap out at level 10 for difficulty in terms of the monster's level. The next dungeon will be up to like level 20, the next one's 30, and so on and so forth. So if you're not careful and plan ahead, you can end up suffering a total party wipeout at the start of a new dungeon. You could say that this is what is considered the difficulty setting within the game, as it automatically gets more difficult as you progress. In terms of replay value, this game of course, has plenty of it as it's a RPG. Some things you could do in a different playthrough is deciding which dungeon to start off right off the bat, or deciding which party composition you want to utilize within the dungeons. I do have to say though that the graphics for this game were pretty good considering it's a game made in 1999. I would have to say, splendid. In my opinion, a few things that could have made this game even greater could include voice acting, so the characters, you actually hear them talk in dialogue. And at the same time, I think there could have been more runes to explore and get to meet more different adventurers in the game as well that you can either interact with or get them as party members. Because currently in this game, the only adventurers officially you meet is, well, Meg, Chain Gun, Pepperbox, and that guy in the bar with the dorky looking glasses who also happens to be an adventurer. But I think in my opinion, it could have been more adventurers you could have met. Thank you for watching this game review on Evolution, the World of Sacred Devices for the Dreamcast. Come back next time for further game reviews. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and share this video and leave a like as well. Thank you.